It all started on a rainy Thursday afternoon. The school bell had just rung, and students poured out of their classrooms, chattering, laughing, and shoving books into their backpacks. The hallway buzzed with energy, except in one corner, near the lockers by the gym doors, where silence suddenly dropped like a stone. That's where she stood, alone, quiet, looking down at her shoes like they held the answers to the world's problems. Her name was Amara, 15 years old, small frame, dark brown skin that glowed even under the flickering fluorescent lights, and eyes that didn't say much but saw everything. She didn't talk much. She didn't joke around or blend in. She moved like she didn't belong here, like she had learned long ago that silence was safer. A group of 3 girls, popular and loud, cornered her like they did every week. They called her names, mocked her hair, asked her if she even had friends. She didn't answer, just stood still, her fingers tightening on the straps of her backpack. One of them, Lena, stepped closer and flicked a gum wrapper at her chest. "Why you always standing around like some sad statue?" Lena laughed, glancing at her 2 friends who giggled behind her. "Say something, or are you too good for us now?" Amara stayed silent, but her left hand twitched, barely. You wouldn't notice, unless you knew what to look for. A tiny shift, a signal, that was when it happened. Lena slapped her. Not hard enough to break skin, just enough to sting, enough to humiliate, enough to let the hallway know who was in charge, and yet Amara didn't flinch, didn't cry. She just looked up slowly. Her eyes met Lena's, and for the first time they weren't quiet. They were steel, cold, focused. The 3 girls backed up a little, confused. "You think you're tough now?" Lena asked, her voice just a little less sure. Amara said nothing, but her body shifted, only slightly. It was like the air around her got heavier, like the floor under her feet had turned into something solid, something dangerous. That's when Malik walked in. 17. Tall. Always with his hoodie up. The kind of guy who kept to himself but somehow knew everybody's story. He was on his way to catch the late bus but stopped dead when he saw Amara in that corner. He'd seen her before. Sitting alone in the cafeteria, walking home in the rain, reading in the library like the world outside didn't matter. He took one step forward and then froze, because something in her posture made the whole hallway feel different, like a storm was about to break. And then Amara did something no one expected. She took off her backpack, placed it gently on the ground, and stood up straighter. One of Lena's friends laughed nervously. "What, you gonna cry or something?" But she didn't cry. She moved, quick, clean, deadly. The hallway went silent. Feet shuffled back. Phones came out. No one knew exactly what they were witnessing, but it was clear they were no longer in control. Amara wasn't just defending herself. She was sending a message, without violence, without words. Just precise movements that left Lena on the ground, shocked but unharmed. Security didn't come. Teachers didn't show up. The crowd didn't cheer. They just stared. The world had tilted. The girl they used to call weird and quiet had just turned the entire power dynamic upside down. And then she picked up her backpack, nodded once to Malik, who was still rooted to the spot, and walked away. But that was only the beginning, because what no one knew, not even Malik, was that Amara had been trained in martial arts since she could walk. Raised by her grandfather, a retired combat instructor, she had spent her childhood mastering disciplines most people had never even heard of. She didn't want to fight. She avoided it at all costs. But when pushed to the edge, she didn't break. She calculated. And Malik? He wasn't just another bystander. He'd seen things in life. Dark things. Things a teenager shouldn't have to carry. His heart was big. But his anger was bigger. That's why what happened next changed everything. The next morning, Malik got on the bus early, as always. As he sat near the middle, a white woman entered the bus. She looked tired, pale. He noticed the curve of her stomach under the coat, pregnant, holding a heavy bag. Nobody stood. Not a single person. But Malik did. He stood and offered her his seat with a quiet, "You can take mine, ma'am." She looked surprised. grateful. And as she lowered herself slowly into the seat, she leaned toward him and slipped something into his hand. A folded note. "Don't read it until you're off the bus," she said, her voice calm. Malik nodded, confused. Later, standing under a tree waiting for the rain to let up, he unfolded the note. And when he read what it said, his mouth went dry, because the words, on that paper, they would change his life forever. But even that wasn't the end, because someone else had seen what happened on that bus. Someone who had been watching Malik and Amara for longer than they knew. And by the time the truth came out, the entire city would be talking. All because a quiet girl refused to be a victim, and a quiet boy offered his seat. But the question now is, who was the pregnant woman, and why did that note shake Malik to his core? You'll want to sit down for what happens next. Malik stood there in the drizzle, his fingers tight around the small folded note. His heart was pounding, not because of the rain or the cold, but because of what he had just read. The words weren't long, they weren't dramatic, but something about them felt heavy, like they were carved in stone. You don't know me, but I've been watching you. Your kindness didn't go unnoticed. We need to talk. Your future depends on it. There was no name, no phone number, just those few lines in neat handwriting, written with care, as if the woman had planned it long. Before getting on that bus, he read it again and again. By the time he looked up, the bus was gone. The street was nearly empty. The rain had picked up, drumming softly on the leaves above him. His mind raced. Who was she? What did she mean by we? What kind of future was she talking about? He slipped the note into his hoodie pocket and walked home. Every step felt like it echoed louder than the last. Malik lived with his grandmother in a small apartment above a barber shop. His mom had left when he was 10. His dad wasn't around, never had been. It was just him and Nana now, Nana and the ghosts of a past nobody talked about. He didn't complain, though. His grandmother loved him fiercely, even if life had worn her thin. She always said, "Some of us were born into storms, baby, but that just means we know how to swim." When he walked in, she was already making dinner. The smell of garlic and peppers filled the room. "You okay?" she asked, not even looking up from the stove. Malik hesitated. "Yeah, just tired." She gave him a side glance, one of those looks that saw straight through him, but she didn't press. Upstairs in his room, Malik took the note out again. He stared at it for a long time. There was something about the handwriting. It was careful, precise, not rushed. Whoever wrote this wanted to be taken seriously. And that word, future. Why that word? He didn't know it yet, but this wasn't the woman's first note, and it wouldn't be her last. Across town, Amara sat alone in her room, her hands bandaged. From earlier training, her grandfather, Mr. Akandi, was in the garage working on his old punching bag setup. He never missed a day. Even in his 60s, he trained like he was still in the army. He rarely spoke about his past, but Amara had picked up pieces over time. He'd trained elite units, taught combat strategy, and had once been the bodyguard for someone very important. Now he only trained her. Amara wasn't allowed to fight. That was rule number 1. What you carry is too dangerous to use carelessly, he always said. You're not a weapon, you're a shield. Learn the difference. But today, she broke that rule, not with violence, but with precision. The truth was, when Lena slapped her, Amara didn't feel anger. She felt cold calculation. Her mind had mapped out every possible movement, every weakness, every counterattack, in seconds, like it was second nature. What scared her wasn't what she did. It was what she wanted to do. How close she came to going further. She leaned back against the wall and closed her eyes. The way Malik had looked at her stuck in her mind. Not scared, not surprised, just curious. Like he recognized something in her. She didn't know much about him, just that he kept his head down and helped people when nobody was watching. Like giving his sandwich to a homeless man outside the gas station last week, or standing between a freshman and a drunk senior after a football game. He never bragged, never looked for credit. But something was pulling them both into the same current now, something they didn't choose, but couldn't escape. The next day at school, whispers floated through the halls like smoke. Everyone had seen the video, Amara flipping Lena with barely a touch. The way Lena scrambled to her feet, her voice shaky, her confidence shattered. Some people cheered, some said she was dangerous, but no one tried her again. Malik saw her walking toward her locker, headphones in, face blank. The crowd parted for her. Not out of fear, but out of respect they couldn't explain. He walked up beside her. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She glanced at him, nodded. "You?" He hesitated, then handed her the note. She read it silently, her brow furrowing. "You think it's a joke?" he asked. "No," she said without blinking. "This isn't a joke." "How do you know?" "Because that handwriting. I've seen it before." Malik blinked. "Where?" She didn't answer, just looked at him, serious now, like something had locked into place. "Do you know who she is?" he asked. Amara didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked around the hallway as if checking to see who was watching. "She was in the background of one of my grandfather's old photos," she said finally. "From back when he was still in active duty. He never told me who she was, but I remember the face." Now Malik was staring too. "So, she's connected to your family?" "She might be. Or she might be watching both of us for something." That word again, watching. It didn't make sense, nothing did, and yet deep down both of them could feel it. They were being drawn into something bigger than school bullies or mysterious bus notes. Someone was pulling the strings, and that someone knew exactly who they were. But why them? Neither Amara nor Malik had the answer yet. But far away, in a tall, office building with tinted windows and secure lines, the woman who had slipped Malik the note sat at a desk, watching two screens. One showed Malik getting on the bus. The other showed Amara leaving school, her expression unreadable. She made a quick call. "They've made contact," she said. A voice on the other end replied, "Good. Keep your distance. They'll come to us." The woman hung up, staring at the screen one more time before whispering to herself, "Let's hope they're ready, because what's coming next? They'll need each other to survive." The storm hadn't started yet, but the sky was already darkening. Later that night, Malik sat in his room, the glow from his phone lighting up his face. He couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about that note, about Amara's eyes when she said she'd seen the handwriting before, about the way her voice dropped, like something inside her had turned cautious. It was like they had stepped into a story that had already begun before they even knew they were part of it. He opened his closet and reached behind the boxes where he kept old papers and notebooks. Hidden beneath them was a shoebox. Inside, carefully, wrapped in plastic, was a letter his mother had left him the day she disappeared. He hadn't opened it in years, but now something told him to. As he peeled back the wrapper and unfolded the paper, his heart dropped. It was the same handwriting, the same exact writing as the note the woman on the bus had given him. He read the letter again slowly. It was short, his mother telling him she had to leave, that she loved him, and that when the time comes, you'll understand everything. You'll be guided. Don't be afraid. He had never understood what that meant. He was 10 when he got it. Back then, it just felt like another goodbye. But now, it felt like a warning, or maybe a clue. The next morning, he found Amara waiting for him by the school gate. She usually didn't approach anyone first, but today she stood still, arms crossed, like she had something to say. "We need to talk," she said, walking with him as he entered the building. He nodded. "I found something, a letter from my mom, same handwriting." Amara stopped. "Your mother, she's connected to this?" He shrugged, unsure. "She disappeared years ago. Just left one day, that's all I ever got from her." Amara looked down, thinking, then maybe we're not the only ones in this. They skipped their first class and sat in the far end of psych, the library, away from everyone else. Malik showed her the letter. She read it twice, her face tense. "You said your grandfather trained in the military?" Malik asked. Yes, but not just military. He was part of something different. He never gave me details, just said he worked in special units that handled things people weren't ready to understand. He always warned me not to trust appearances. Said some people walk around looking ordinary, but carry secrets heavier than bombs. Malik leaned forward. So what if this woman, this note, this is all part of that world? Amara looked at him. What if we're part of, too? Outside the school, someone sat parked in a black SUV across the street. They weren't watching the building. They were watching a specific window, 3rd floor, left side, the library. Inside, Malik and Amara kept talking. Each word added more weight. Each memory they shared started to fit into a bigger picture. I remember something else, Malik said. A year before she left, my mom kept telling me not to tell people about my memory. I thought she meant school stuff, but now I wonder if it was something else. Amara tilted her head. Memory? I can remember almost everything. Like, perfectly. Things I saw once, I can see again in my head exactly as they were. I didn't think it mattered, but maybe it does. She nodded slowly. My grandfather taught me a breathing technique. Said it helps me access what others can't see. Sometimes when I use it, I feel different, more alert. Like I can sense things before they happen. They both stared at each other. You think they're related? Malik asked. I don't know, Amara replied. But I don't think it's a coincidence. Meanwhile, back at Amara's home, her grandfather was in the garage flipping through an old file. His hands trembled slightly as he looked at a picture. A black and white photo of 3 children. One of them looked like a young Malik. Next, to him, a girl who resembled Amara. The 3rd child was unknown. Above the photo was a red stamp, Project Sentinel, file closed. Mr. Akande whispered to himself, they've activated it, after all this time. He looked up sharply as the door creaked. A woman stood in the doorway, same one from the bus. Her expression was calm but urgent. We need to bring them in, she said. Not yet, he replied. If we wait too long, we risk exposure. They're not ready. They don't have to be ready, she said. They just have to choose. He stared at her for a long moment. Do you know what happened to the others? She nodded. That's why we can't wait. Amara and Malik weren't just ordinary kids, and this wasn't just a coincidence. The truth was older than both of them. They had been chosen, before they were even old enough to understand. Raised in separate lives, taught in subtle ways, shaped for something they couldn't yet see. And now that something was closing in. That afternoon, Malik walked into the community center to help his grandmother with supplies. He'd been volunteering there for months. It was quiet, calm, normal, but today he felt eyes on him. Near the hallway by the storage room, a man in a gray jacket waited. He was tall, clean-shaven, no expression. He smiled slightly when he saw Malik. Can I help you? Malik asked. The man shook his head. No, but I think I can help you. Malik stepped back slightly. I don't know you. No, but your mother did, he said. And she left something for you. When you're ready, come to this address. He handed Malik a black card with nothing on it but an address in white letters. Wait, Malik said. Who are you? The man smiled again. Someone who wants to see you live. And just like that, he walked out the back door. Malik stood, frozen. Later that evening, he met Amara at the park, the note clutched in his hand. He told her everything. This is getting dangerous, she said. I know, Malik replied, but something tells me we're already deep in it. She pulled out her phone and showed him a photo. It was blurry, but the background of the old military photo clearly showed the same woman who gave him the note on the bus. She's connected to both our pasts, Amara said, and maybe to something that was hidden from us. They sat in silence for a moment, the wind rustling through the trees. Malik looked up at the stars. I feel like something's coming. It is, Amara said softly. We just don't know what yet, and somewhere nearby in the shadows someone watched them. The game had started, and the pieces were moving. The next few days felt like walking through fog. Malik and Amara moved through school, but their minds were somewhere else. On that black card, on the strange man, on the woman whose face kept popping up in different corners of their lives. What used to feel like coincidence now felt like a trail, each clue dragging them closer to something neither of them could name. Malik started noticing patterns. A van parked outside his block every evening, always with the same dent in the bumper. The same two men in suits pretending to read newspapers at the train station. His phone began acting strange. Glitches, messages not sending, calls dropping after 2 rings. He mentioned it to Amara, and she said her grandfather had begun locking his files, even when she was in the house. Something had changed. One afternoon, Amara walked out of school to find her grandfather's car gone. He always picked her up. She called his phone, but it rang endlessly. She took a cab home, heart pounding the entire way. When she got there, the front door was open. Not broken, just open. Inside, the place was still. Too still. Like everything had been paused. A glass of water sat untouched on the table. One of his boots was near the door, the other one missing. And on the kitchen counter, right next to a set of keys, was a small envelope with her name written on it. She tore it open, hands shaking. Inside was a note that simply said, "If they take me, don't follow. But if they come for you, run. Use the red key. You know where." She backed away slowly, her mind spinning. The red key. Her grandfather had once shown her a tiny key hidden in the bottom of an old lamp. He'd said it was for emergencies. At the time, she thought it was some paranoid backup plan, but now it felt like a lifeline. She grabbed the key and ran out the back door, her backpack bouncing on her shoulder. Meanwhile, Malik sat alone in his room, staring at the black card again. He had looked up the address, but it wasn't on any map. No, GPS matched it. It was just blank, like it didn't exist. But something inside him told him it did, and that it held answers. His grandmother knocked on his door gently. "Someone left this for you," she said, handing him a sealed envelope. Didn't say a word, just walked off. He opened it. Inside was a photo. It was his mother. But not just her. She was standing in front of a building, and behind her was the same woman from the bus and Amara's grandfather. All 3 of them younger, wearing tactical uniforms, standing in front of a sign that read, Division 47, on. The back of the photo was one line. "Your mother didn't disappear. She was taken." Malik dropped the photo, his breath catching. Everything was unraveling at once. That night, he and Amara met at an old train yard on the edge of town. She told him everything. Her grandfather gone. The note. The red key. He showed her the photo. "Division 47, she whispered. "My grandfather once told me that name when I was a kid. I thought it was a joke. What is it?" "I think it's where they trained, whatever they were." Malik stepped forward. "We have to find it." "No," she said. "We have to find out why they're after us first. Why they're watching us." Just then, the sound of footsteps echoed from behind the rusted cargo containers. A light flickered on, then another. Within seconds, 3 figures stepped into the open. Men in black suits, earpieces, each holding small handheld devices. Amara grabbed Malik's hand and whispered, "Run." They sprinted, weaving between the abandoned cars and shipping crates. One of the men shouted something into a mic, and suddenly lights came on all around them. This was a setup, a trap. They'd been lured here. From a rooftop nearby, a 4th figure moved. Fast, silent. A woman. It was her. She dropped down behind one of the men, and in a flash, she disarmed him with surgical precision. Amara saw it happen mid-run. "That's her!" she shouted. Malik nodded, recognizing the same black coat and sharp eyes. The woman didn't speak. She just motioned for them to follow. They ducked behind her as the other 2 men closed in, but she moved like lightning. Each move was clean, controlled, like she'd done this 1,000 times. One man tried to raise a weapon, but she kicked it from his hand and dropped him with a hit to the chest that knocked the wind from him. Malik stared, stunned. She's not normal. She's trained, Amara said. Like my grandfather. Like your mom. The woman led them to a stairwell that led underground. She slammed the door behind them and bolted it shut. For a few seconds, it was just the sound of their heavy breathing and the drip of water echoing down the concrete tunnel. You're not safe anymore, the woman said calmly. And this is just the beginning. Who are you? Malik asked. I was part of the same unit as your mother and her team. We were all trained in Division 47. Your mother, she didn't disappear. She was taken because she knew too much. Because she was going to expose something. Expose what? Amara said. The woman looked at them, her voice low. A government-run program that wasn't just training people like me. They were creating people like you. Malik's heart stopped. What does that mean? He asked. It means you're not random, she said. Your abilities, your memory, her instincts, they're not accidents. You were part of a program they shut down and buried. Your parents tried to protect you. But now that you're coming of age, you're becoming a threat. Amara's voice was tight. What do they want? To control you, or erase you. The tunnel shook slightly. Above them, muffled footsteps echoed. Reinforcements were coming. The woman handed them both small black capsules. Swallow these. They'll mask your biosignature. Malik hesitated. What's happening to us? She looked at them with something like sorrow. The truth is bigger than either of you imagined, and it's already in motion. As the tunnel lights flickered again and the sound of descending boots echoed from behind, the woman turned toward a steel door at the far end. If we make it out, I'll tell you everything, she said. But if we don't, she didn't finish the sentence. She just opened the door and ran. Malik and Amara followed, hearts pounding. Behind them, the chase had just begun.